BYU held a Zoom media availability with all their coaches. Kalani Sitake went first, and it's kind of funny. I mean, of all the, and they did it in pairs. Kalani went by himself, but then you had Puha and Anna. You had the two new coaches, and you had the coordinators, Kelly Poppinga and Aaron Roderick. And joining us right now is the new defensive coordinator, Kelly Poppinga. Kelly, good morning.
PK, how we doing?
Doing great. I was thinking watching yesterday there in your new role, I'm thinking, my gosh, the kids grow up fast, don't they? Because I was a beat writer when you were a player, as I was a beat writer a few years earlier when Kalani and A-Rod were players. And here we are. You have a leadership role now. And I mean, you had one before as a special teams guy and interior line or exterior, but now you are the coordinator. How exciting is that for you to have this individual promotion?
It's been really exciting to kind of see everything come together, to see our staff come together, to see the players stay and be retained, and all that happened too. I don't want to give it any credit to myself. That all happened before I even was announced. There was a few players that knew I was staying, but I would really give the leadership of the team a ton of credit there, that we were able to retain all these guys. And so it's exciting to be able to work with all this talent that we have coming back. Not just talent, these guys are exceptional people. And I just think, Kalani's created a great culture, and it's made our players want to stay here or make it really hard for them to leave here. And so it's fun to get a bunch of these really good players back in a first-year coordinator role for me, to be able to have the depth and the talent that we have. It's going to make my job a little easier, right? And so excited for that opportunity and the challenge, and very thankful to Kalani to giving me this opportunity.
It's funny how much things have changed over the years as far as, recruiting is always a big deal, right? It always has been a big deal. You guys spend a ton of time recruiting. I've seen you sitting there watching high school basketball games, watch sophomores. So they're still 2-3 years away from potentially making commitments. So you have to establish those relationships, and then you'd have to establish relationships with high school coaches, JC guys, and there'd be a few transfers here and there that would have. Now the transfer portal is huge, but also I think maybe an underappreciated story, Kelly, is now basically the retainment period. I don't even know if that's a phrase, but I'm going to coin that in terms of you've got to make sure that you keep your guys, because you got some really good players. And we've seen guys who follow coaches, and obviously Jay and Gennaro go with Kyle to Michigan. So that was one. Plus there's others, I'm sure. Speak to how important that retainment period is after the season before school starts, to make sure the guys who are vital in your program actually do stay in your program.
Yeah, to me, it's the most important part of recruiting now is you spend all, like you said, you spend all this time, you spend all this money recruiting these kids to come here in high school, which is really, that's probably the most important part, right? You got to get him here first, but the second most important part is you got to retain him here. And that's a part of recruiting that we use is like, okay, we're going to recruit this guy. And I don't even know if this is a word, but what's his retainability, right?
Yeah.
Is he a guy that we can retain? If he, like, say he blows up to be, an All-American, or, like LJ, he becomes the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year. Like, are we going to be able to retain this guy? And to LJ's credit, he had a lot of people that were coming after him, and he didn't want to go. He wanted to stay. And it goes back once again, I think, to the culture Kalani's created here, the way that we push our guys, but at the same time, Kalani likes to have a lot of fun doing it. And so I think the guys know that we're going to take really good care of them. And they just know that, at some places in college football, it's not like that. It's a true business. There's no relationship with the coaches. It's just, they get into the building, they get out, and there's really not much more going on. It's like they've already, made it to the NFL as far as like relationships go. So we try to push that part really hard. And so that goes into the retainability part. Once you get to the end of the season, we got to do it's really kind of like, in a way, you have to recruit them all over again, but really you're recruiting them throughout the whole entire season, right? The way that you treat them, the way that you coach them, they're interviewing you and we're interviewing them throughout this whole process as the season goes on. And so I think a lot of times you lose players during the season, by the way, a lot of times it's because you don't tell them the truth, right? So you tell them, hey, you're going to play all this, you're going to have all this playing time, or this is going to happen, and this is going to happen. But if that never happens, and the player just looks at you as a liar and just like, okay, this guy's not a man of truth, and so he's going to go and find that somewhere else. And so I just think that our players ultimately, at the end of the day, when it came to this season, they saw that we were trying to do it the right way, and I think they saw the result of it, and the result was good, right? And so I think a lot of them were like, why would I leave a situation where the results are good? We're getting what we've been looking for as a player, and I think that validity of winning and being successful, not just on the field but off the field as well, has helped retain our roster.
The way you speak of that, and I think it's kind of a perception, and I want you to address it, is that, the kid glove approach now, that the kids, you got to make sure that you're building them up and maybe even buttering them up. And so you can't, and I heard the UCLA basketball coach say this the other day, is that he can't coach them the way he used to. And the reference there and that we would take inference is that, well, you can't coach them hard. And I wanted you to address that, because you have to coach them hard, but you got to make sure that, I guess, you're not offending them. How much of that is a line that you got to straddle to make sure you still coach them hard, but you don't upset him and mom and dad and girlfriend or wherever it might be?
Yeah, I totally disagree with the UCLA coach. And I think I actually saw that quote. And the reason why is I think if you have the right kid, he wants to be coached hard. Right, so it doesn't matter the situation. If you recruit it the right way and you recruit it to what you're looking for, the kid wants to be coached hard. And I think that's something that Kalani's a master at. I thought Jay was really good at it. I think Gary Anderson's really good at it. And I think we've all just learned as a staff, you have to coach your guys hard. But then at the same time, you got to love them up and you got to take care of them. And there's that fine line of you can't be his buddy and his friend all the time, right? And that's really not our job. Our job is to help them reach their potential as a player and as a person. And if you're not doing that day in and day out, coaching them hard, they're not going to become the best version of themselves. And every good player will say that, right? They want to be coached hard and they want to be given the proper coaching. If you're not correcting them to help them become a better player, then they see that and they'll go find that, right? So I think there's that fine line right there. Is you got to be able to coach a guy hard, but that maybe a minute later or 2 minutes later, you're over on the sideline, you're hugging that guy up and letting him know that you love and care for him. And Kalani uses this principle in the program, which I really love, is that's true love. True love. And the same thing when you raise your kids, right? So none of us are perfect at raising our kids, and it's, I think, like coaching, but there's times like true love is you've got to tell the truth, right? And if you tell the truth, then they see that you're trying to help them become better, right? But when you start beating around the bush and maybe telling them how great they are all the time, then that's never going to help anybody. That's in the football world or any world. Like we got to be able to tell the truth, address the truth, and fix it, and that's going to help all of us continue to progress.
New BYU defensive coordinator Kelly Poppinga joining us here on 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. I'm wondering now, as your coordinator, you are the coordinator, each day you're going to be doing things, working, in season, out of season. How much of that changes now from what you were, the literal changes as to how you spend your day and days now that you're the coordinator versus when you were a position coach?
Yeah, there's a lot going on. So it just from you're no longer just recruiting your position, but now you're recruiting the whole side of the ball. And we'd all help each other out, but now it's like you're one of the main contacts with every single one of those guys. So I think that takes up a lot of time. It's the same thing when you coach your position. You're only coaching, the outside backers or defensive ends when you're a position coach, but now when you're D coordinator, you're coaching the whole entire defense, right? So, and then now you're also managing coaches at the same time, right? So beforehand, you're kind of just, doing your thing, as a defensive end coach or a special teams coordinator, and you'll get some help from other people, and you have to manage, maybe a couple coaches that are helping you with special teams. But now on the defensive side of the ball, there's 10 to 12 guys now that I have to help make sure that, we're coaching the proper techniques and fundamentals. We're coaching the call correctly. We're making sure that, everybody's in a good standing academically, right? So there's this whole management now of people that you have to worry about. And so, yeah, that takes up a lot more time, and you just really don't know until you're doing it. And so, I tell my wife all the time, it's been this last month has been super, super busy, and it's been more busy than I've ever been in my whole coaching career. And yeah, I'd gotten home a couple nights a little later than usual, and she's just like, "Are you sure this is what we wanted here?" So, but it's good. I mean, she's supportive and all, but it's just you just don't realize until you're actually in it, and it'll get better. The more that I learn and grow and be able to learn how to manage time better and manage each, I think, bucket of responsibilities that you have, then it will get better. But yeah, it's been a whirlwind, man, but it's been fun to learn and grow. And I've had, Kalani's helped me a ton, and I've, taken calls from Bronco. Bronco and I have talked a lot, and he's helped me out with a bunch of stuff. And so it's good to have these, and Gary Anderson's been here and helping me a ton. So it's been good to have these guys that have been around for a long time, that have been super successful doing it, being able to give me their feedback and their suggestions. And so being able to have people like that to talk to has really helped me as well.
And that leads me to my next question. We're talking to Kelly Poppinga, BYU defensive coordinator. Everybody has mentors. I don't care who you are, what you do. We all have mentors, right? Whether it's family members when we're younger growing up. I had I have a couple older sisters, and one of my sister's husbands was my guy. I didn't have a big brother, and he was my big brother. He was 10 years older than me, and I owe so much of what I am about to him. You recruit Arizona, don't you? You have recruited Arizona.
Yep.
Yeah, well, he was a soccer coach at Cactus High School. I don't know if you ever made it out that way. Yeah. The little press box thing, if you enter go the next time, it's got his name on it because he started high school soccer and was one of the gurus in high school soccer. Anyway, he was my guy, and I didn't make a decision without consulting with him because I knew he had my best interest at heart at all times. He's gone now, and I miss him dearly. But anyway, I wanted to hit on your mentors. You already mentioned Bronco. Who else you got?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, obviously Bronco is probably one of the main ones. I was with him for 13 years as a coach, and then, there 3 or 4 as a player. And then I would say the original defensive staff that I was on, Paul Tidwell, Steve Kafusi, I think those guys were great mentors for me. Even Lance Reynolds, the coach Lance Reynolds helped me out a ton when I was first getting into this business. And Mark Weber, another guy, that original staff that I was on as a young coach, really helped me grow, develop, and know who I am in the coaching world. But as far as just defensive mentors, I would say it has to come down to Bronco. I think Nick Howell's, into that right there. I think even my time at Boise State, I had, Spencer Danielson, who's now the head coach, and Andy Avalos, and Kane Ione. There's tons of people that have been. I've been blessed. I've been put in great situations around great coaches everywhere I've been, from my first time here at BYU to my time at Virginia to my time at Boise, and that's why I brought Demario Warren here, right? Because he was so influential in what I was doing and what we had done at Boise that I thought, man, if I ever have a chance to hire this guy, this can be the first call that I have. And so, there's all these great people. But now if I'm really looking into it, Jay Hill was awesome. I mean, for 3 years, what I was able to learn from that guy and just a different perspective. So if I had to say who I'd say this defense is going to be based around, it's going to be based around a little bit of Bronco Mendenhall. It's going to be based around a little bit of what we did at Boise State. It's going to be based around, a little bit of what Jay Hill did. And, that the whole fundamentals is going to come from Kalani and Gary. They're the ones. I mean, really, if you look at the tree from Kyle to Gary to Kalani and Jay, and then now the situation that we're in now. So I just think each phase of that is going to have their little twist on this deal. But yeah, if you had to say where it all started, it started with probably Kyle Winningham, and even before that, Fred Winningham, right? So that's where it all kind of stems from, which is pretty cool.
There you go.
And it's, I look at it now and be like, whoever thought that I'd be a part of that tree, but I am a part of it now, and I've learned a ton from it. And so to be able to take what I've learned, and apply some of the stuff that I learned from Bronco and from my Boise State times, it's the same thing I did with special teams. I'm going to try to take the best of all the worlds and, find our mix of what works for our team and our players. And that's our job. And that's what we're doing right now, is looking at last season and saying, okay, what fits into this defense, this style of defense that we want to play with the players that we have, and then we'll run with it. And I'm really excited about where we are at this point.
Me too, Kelly. I could talk to you for another hour, but I know you got to go. We didn't get an opportunity to get into personnel. We can do that down the road. I'm happy for you. It's a justified thing that you worked for, and I expect the BYU defense to have success. And thanks for joining us.
All right, PK. I appreciate you. Thanks for having me on.
All right, that's BYU defensive coordinator Kelly Poppinga as he is now taking over. And well, we'll get to it next. I know we got to go to break because Yak and I will talk about just the coaching tree that is in this state and where it began and how it's continuing. So stay with us, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.